Hi, and welcome to Cut the Crap, the podcast, a place where we find the true meaning of health stems beyond just your food and weight, and that with the right conversations, you can spark true, lasting positive change. So join us in today's conversation. Hello everyone, this is Lamaan, the founder of Cut the Crap. As a life and health coach, I wanted to utilize this time to connect with you and to offer free coaching and to help us navigate through this difficult time to come out more centered, connected, and just move forward one day at a time. Tune into Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and Anremi for updated episodes every day. So let's move forward one day at a time. Before we get into today's conversation, I just wanted to apologize in advance about the quality of the audio. As you know, we are recording this from home using the internet, which can be a bit unreliable. So we thank you for your understanding and your patience. Okay, welcome. Hello, everyone. We are 3 days forward. I'm so excited about today's conversation, even though I'm not a parent and I have no kids at my house. But I think it's such an important subject. So I'm going to go ahead and just say hi to everyone. I am Lamaan. I am the founder of Cut the Crap. We are 3 days forward today. We're cutting the crap. We're connecting. We're learning to stay centered. We are learning coaching skills from each other and from experts. And today, the subject I want to just throw out there a bit is change. And change can be a very scary thing for all of us at all different ages. And we have a hard time adapting to any change that happens in our life because usually humans like to adapt to a certain routine and oftentimes thrive on that. But inevitably, you do have to go through change to evolve, to grow, to learn, to become more of who you truly are. And at this point, we're all going through a lot of change, especially children. Children are experiencing a high level of change. Plus, they don't really have the understanding of how to adapt to that. Children don't know what's going on really. Why are all these things changing? Why, even if they know it's a pandemic or they don't, or whatever they're hearing their friends and their teachers and the news in the background or their parents speaking say, what they do know is I'm not at school anymore. I'm not at school every day. I don't know when I'm going to be at school again. I can't see my friends. We're not going out. Mom and dad aren't at work. People aren't kissing and hugging, and I can't kiss and hug my grandparents. Maybe some can't even see them. So there's a lot of change. The hygiene has become obsessive. So how do parents deal with this? How a lot of kids, I'm hearing from like my cousins, about my nieces and my nephews, that their kids are really acting up. So I'm going to speak today with Marwa Saadawi, who is a child therapist. She's between New Jersey and Cairo, and she's been in the field for 15 years. So I wanted to speak to her to understand, how do you explain this to children? Are certain behaviors actually an insight to something else that's going on? What should you tell them? What shouldn't you tell them? And what things should you actually focus on? So I'm personally not a parent, like I mentioned. So I don't know, but I do think that this is really, really important. So I'm going to have Marwa join us now. And of course, I want you guys to send in your questions during the live. This is why we're streaming the podcast and YouTube video live, because we want you to interact and ask, even if you're not parents, maybe your siblings or aunts and uncles. So send your questions. I have questions that were sent in today, and they're all related to the subject matter. So I'm actually going to wait for Marwa to join to ask us to help answer these questions. And here we go. Let me bring her in. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so hi Marwa, welcome from New Jersey. Let's try this again. Marwa is a child therapist. She's been in the field for 15 years. Marwa works in Cairo as well as New Jersey. And we wanted to talk together today about children. How are they understand? Do they know what's going on? Should we worried what we tell them? So I actually just want you to go ahead and tell me, like, how do kids adapt to change? Yeah, what's up? What's going on? What do we need to know about our siblings, our nieces, our nephews, our kids?
Okay, so definitely by now, we've spoken to our kids about the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of information out there. A lot has changed in the homes. We've uprooted our lives. Our homes have become our schools. And so I feel like in the last 2 weeks, a lot of families have just been in go, go, go mode and just trying to figure out a structure, a routine, trying to get things working, school, etc. And so now that I feel like we're 2 weeks in and we don't really know how long we're going to be in this, it's really important, I think, to really start paying attention to our emotional well-being, our structure and routine, and our hygiene. Those are the 3 things that we really need to focus on.
By we, you mean like the adults in the children's lives, like the parents and, okay. So parents need to just focus on caregivers, right. So the
Parents,
caregivers need to focus on their own well-being. That's number 1.
Yes. So I think before, kids are going to continuously have questions because right now we don't have a deadline. We don't have an end date as to when kids are going back to school, if they're going back to school. Maybe some schools have already announced. I know colleges have announced. And so really, I think the general tip as a parent or a caregiver right now is that to continuously have an ongoing conversation with your kids at an age appropriate level, and to stay calm and be very reassuring and be super open. But before doing that, I think it's really important for parents and caregivers right now more than ever is to really check in with themselves and their own anxiety, their own panic, their own worries, and their own stress, because that's being transmitted with what is coming out in a lot of the research, and a lot of moms that are speaking up and talking about this, and a lot of the blogs and everything that I've been reading and researching is that a lot of the stress is being transmitted onto children in various different ways. And that comes from tone, from your body language, from what you're talking about with your friends and other moms and other dads and other caregivers and grandparents and whoever you might be talking to. And of course, the news. So
even if they're not directly watching.
Even if they're not directly watching. So, if you have younger kids at home, I think right now it's really important to be limiting how much news you're listening to, even if it's just in the background. Kids are going to pick up on this, and we already know that. So if it's constantly in the background, you're just adding more stress into your household. So try to limit to 1 time a day where you're watching the news, or if you can, do it privately.
And it's probably also affecting the caregiver's well-being, watching the news over and over. So that also,
yes,
you said, your own mood is transmitted. It changes the atmosphere of the house, and kids can pick up on you not being well, you being scared, you being paranoid or panicked. They pick up on it even if you're trying very hard to not show it and to hide it. So that's number 1, is you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, you're staying calm, you're doing what you as a caregiver, as a parent, need to do to be well.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning we were all kind of, a lot of us were really trying to listen to everything that's going on, and who's speaking and what president is speaking and what governor is speaking and whatever is going on. But now what I'm seeing is that a lot of people are limiting themselves to, in my household, we do 6:30 news at night, and we're just catching up on all the news for the whole day, and that's it.
It's a 30-minute news, get your facts, that's it.
And so what you're seeing is that a lot of people are really advertising that online on social media, to sort of limit that. And so changing that sort of environment in the home, I think, is really important.
Okay. And then you said that for the kids, they're going through that change of, or there's an age limit, right? So you have the conversation on a need to know basis, basically. So what's that age differentiated? Like, what age Should you sit down your, like, I think, I mean, I'm
So
not.
I think what's really, I think what's really great here is that take an opportunity when you do sit down and talk with your kids and to just kind of open up the floor and ask them, what have you heard? And what do you know? And what questions do you have? Have that open-ended conversation. You want to do that before giving them information because you want to see what they've already absorbed, what they've processed,
Okay.
and what they're actually worrying about. So you're going to take that as sort of a foundation of your conversation about it and use that to your advantage. You're using that time to your advantage to sort of fix myths, worries, and stressors that they're having. So if kids are asking you, am I going to die from this? Then you know that the information that they've absorbed has been misconstrued in some way. And that's the time where you start to say, you start to talk to them about how it really affects adults more than children. And that's why we're trying to be more careful. And this is why we're staying away from, Giddu and our grandparents at this time, and sort of use that. And I will provide resources for you to add links to. There are really great podcasts out there right now of actually scientists and doctors talking and answering kids' questions. And the top 10 most common questions about what does a virus look like, and what does a virus mean, and is there medicine for it, and the sort of the general questions that a lot of kids are having right now about it.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the thing, though, for a lot of parents, especially in the Middle East, I see them saying things like or using the approach of scaring them to have them actually follow rules. So I see a lot of parents, some of my family members included, they're scaring their kids into washing their hands, taking off their shoes outside, not touching, not kissing. The message has been misconstrued that you have to stay home and we're stuck at home and you're not allowed to go to school, and if you kiss you're gonna get sick, and oh my god, don't do this, and it's panic. Where it's actually, and even people like my age group too, and us as adults, we're starting to get that messaging mixed up, where you're not stuck at home, you're being safe, we're being precautious, we're trying to limit this, we're trying not to make this so bad, you're not as likely to suffer from this, as we're doing this so that we don't make elder people more sick and the people that are compromised. So I think we're missing that fact. We're just turning to fear. And I see a lot of parents do that to their kids, and I don't think that's okay, because we get affected even when we know what's up. I have nights where I really don't sleep well. I have horrible dreams about being taken to some sort of like isolation page, and from things that I hear. Even I'm not an active news watcher, right? Sorry, it cut again. Even though I'm not an active news watcher. So what advice can you give to parents about what should you actually tell them about the things that we know for a fact are happening? How can you change that messaging?
Okay, so I think there's two parts to what you said, which is all really definitely totally happening across the globe. I think using scare tactics and having our kids panic more is really a reflection of two things. Us as parents and caregivers are transmitting our anxiety onto our fear of the unknown, of the fact, are we supposed to be wearing masks when we're going to the grocery store, or are we going a little overboard? These are all the thoughts that we're having as adults. And so that if you're really not being aware of your own well-being and where you are at before talking with your kids, that's going to be transmitted into straight panic mode. As for the scare tactic, that's definitely not a direction that I would recommend. I would recommend more of a positive way and sort of use this time as a learning experience. So we're all at home.
Yeah.
We have time to start putting in more work and effort, more than ever, into hygiene. We are already, as parents and caregivers, we already have a hygiene schedule, which is brushing our teeth and washing our face, and how do you wipe when you're using the toilet, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now it's just putting more emphasis on the importance of germs and taking away the germs and having kids understand what germs are and how does it get transmitted and how do we get sick from our friends in class. So a lot of the times you can use a great example when one kid in class is sick, sometimes all of us get sick. And so using this as a learning experience in the sense that we have always been washing our hands, but now more than ever, it's more important to be extra careful with washing our hands when we are playing with our friends or touching or whatever it might be, and use this time as a way to stress that this is something that we always do. And then once you get that across, you can then start saying why it's important and extra important now because of the virus that we are currently as a world fighting against.
Right.
And so it's about reframing the way that you are presenting that. I think that's really important. For older kids, you can use this time as a science experiment. There's a lot of great science experiments out there about how much germs we have on our fingers. You can do it in the kitchen. You do it all the time on your platform about cleaning your vegetables. So start incorporating these teachable moments when you're at home. And that's sort of, you're just reframing the way that you are emphasizing the importance of washing your hands.
Yeah. I want to hit on a point you mentioned earlier. So the parents, a lot of the parents and caregivers, their whole world shifted really, really quickly. So all of a sudden, you're no longer the parent or the caregiver that's just like, how is school and how is this? Now you're a teacher. So I want you to explain that dynamic shift and how can parents never got a chance to really understand what's going on, prepare themselves for this overload, for working from home and doing all these things for the kids. So they're probably transmitting, like you said, those fears and panic onto their kids and how they're informing them. So obviously you can't hold, I mean, I get it. Parents are doing so much now. I'm so glad that I'm not in this position at this moment, but how can they, now that they're in it, what can parents do and caregivers do to work on that on themselves, even when they don't have that much time, so that they can start changing that trajectory?
Yeah. So I think because, you know, right now, parents are taking on more jobs than ever. Whether you're working from home, whatever your occupation might be, you've now become, you've basically woken up and you've become principal mommy, you've become PE teacher, you've become lunch lady, and you've added on so many stressors to your day already.
Right.
And so what we're finding is that the more structure you're able to put into your home and routine, the more likely that you're going to have a much smoother day. And so a lot of kids all over the world, schools start every morning with a morning meeting. If your family is able to do that, have a morning meeting with expectations, put a colored schedule together. This is something you can do over the weekend. You can do together as a family. Once you put these together, you're then setting expectations for your kids. And you're sort of remolding the way that they are looking at their environment. Because right now at home, they kind of let loose and they're hanging out and they're not used to this structure of sitting in front of a computer or having to do work and having mom look after them or dad look after them or whoever it might be, or independently working on their things. And so the more structure that you put in, the more beneficial that you are. I'm going to show an example of a mom who posted a really wonderful COVID-19 daily schedule that she did with her children.
We will link this on our Cut the Crap page right after we're done with the conversation so that you guys can see it.
And so when you have this type of schedule, and here and it's a very different schedule than what you're expecting. You know, there's creative time, there's time for use of technology, there's time for academic learning, there's time for mom and dad time and kids time alone. And then there's even incentives in here that says you know, bedtime here is at 8 o'clock. If you had a great day and your behavior was great, then your bedtime is moved to 9. And so adding these simple behavior strategies really definitely.
So I talked yesterday actually about the importance of taking decisions for your family and breaking it down. It's called the span of control method. Okay, where you have a million things that you need to make decisions on, and you kind of feel like you don't know which direction to go. Is you span that control of yours and you focus on 3 things at a time. You decide on them right away, you don't overthink, and you put actions in place. And how taking decisions, especially as the head of a household or as a parent, you're creating structure, security, and safety for your children, even if they're whining and I want to see my friends and they're whining, right? So that's definitely really important. But I'm getting a lot of comments here and messages about kids are very difficult, especially when you get into that 7 to 12 age range, where they're really, it would be great to put a schedule and have everyone follow it, but kids are less likely to follow a structure in the comfort of their own home. I know waking up and getting dressed and dressing them up is a good kickstart so that they're not in their PJs doing homework, because you don't get in the mood. But how is them acting up like a sign of fear? How do you deal with them not responding to the schedule?
Okay, so I think when you make a schedule, it creates expectations throughout the day, and kids benefit from knowing what to expect.
Okay.
So when you look at it that way, it's not about having a stringent schedule and them. I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to follow the schedule, because things happen. Maybe you have a household of 3 children of various different ages. Maybe you have learning disabilities, behavioral challenges. There could be so many different issues. But the importance of having the schedule there is giving something for children to look at. They are used to the structure. They are used to going to school from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. And so right now it's that transitional phase where caregivers need to start implementing some kind of structure that kids need to be responsible for. Okay?
If they're fighting back and they're trying to rebel,
and they will,
it's actually deep down good for them, making them more comfortable and relaxing, making them feel safe.
Yeah, and also with practice, the schedule will become more successful, because this is a whole new change. And so if you're consistent with the schedule and you start putting in expectations, I'm seeing a lot of moms who are, I spoke to a lot of moms this week, and I asked about their concerns and what is going on, what are their biggest issues. And a lot of kids are now exhibiting a lot of seeking negative behavior. And what they're doing is that they're being very clingy onto their parents because they're home all of a sudden. They're pretending like they can't get dressed on their own, they need help. And this is all signs of seeking negative behavior, seeking negative attention. And so it's important right now to sort of really work on getting past these negative behaviors by ignoring and putting in expectations such as a schedule, so that children can then learn and get used to the fact that, like, oh, I'm home with mom all day long, but that doesn't mean that while she's cooking dinner, I can be holding onto her leg.
Right.
So it's about ignoring those negative behaviors and focusing more on the positive and creating more of that positive environment.
A punishment and reward system, just kind of like how they have it in school. Like if you do this, you get this. If you don't do this, then you don't get this.
Well, not necessarily, because some parents don't like, they consider that to be sort of bribery, or they're not really into that type of parenting style, and that's totally okay. But yeah. I think if they're seeing their toddler who used to be able to, pour water into their cup and drink it, or to drink out of their cup, and now they are purposely spilling everywhere, your first reaction is going to be to acknowledge that and to say, don't do that.
What did you do? Oh my God.
Exactly. Whereas you can ignore it as long as it's safe. and then focus on that specific behavior in a positive way. So when they do something positive, you focus, and that's when you give the positive reinforcement. You're now enforcing the fact that even though I'm home and a lot has changed, that doesn't mean that you can't drink that water the way that you used to 2 weeks ago. And so using that as an example of implementing positive behavior and ignoring the negative behaviors that are coming up.
One of the comments here said, so you're trying to work more on rewarding positive behavior and just not engaging or acknowledging the acts for the negative behavior for negative attention. Got it. Okay, so that's actually really helpful. I think that's
and I think right now as parents, so I know that behavior is a big issue right now at home. So if behaviors are coming up, start reflecting each day on the themes of the behavior. So let's start looking at the ABCs, the antecedents, what's happening prior to the behavior. And this, I'm talking about negative behaviors. So, and let's see, is there a running theme? And then focus on that one behavior and let's work on that behavior one at a time versus feeling so overwhelmed and saying, oh my God, they're doing this and then they're doing that. And then let's focus on the main behavior. Let's focus on the main behavior and how can we turn that into more positive so that it becomes more desirable.
Okay. So, but you know what I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like oftentimes children mirror their parents. So linking back to the first thing you said, where to make sure your kids are not panicking and they're not having nightmares and they're not acting out because they're feeling scared or confused, that you need to work on yourself. You need to work on you figuring out what you need to do, finding your calm, having a structure even just for you in your day. So I see from what I see, and this, I'm not generalizing at all, but from what I see is that a lot of people now, grown-ups and adults, are, like we said, they're watching the news way too much. And even in their conversations, whether it's on the phone or on FaceTime or house party or what have you on their phones, they're constantly talking about negative things. Oh my God, did you hear what happened? Did you see how many people died because of this? Did you see this person? They said this person got it, and the ventilators are out. And, you know, just, we already know the facts. The facts are, we don't know how long we are going to be home. So we can't keep getting shocked every time the time frame shifts because we already don't know. We don't know, we do know, that a lot of people are going to get affected. So we can't be shocked every time we hear of someone getting affected. We know that some will make it and some won't. And so we need to be able to not put ourselves in a situation where we're constantly sharing negative information and fear back and forth, because the kids get that. So can you speak on that just directly to the elders or the adults, and the parents and caregivers, to be mindful of their own habits when
before I get to that, I'm seeing that there is a comment here about a functional behavior analysis. I'm guessing that might be a teacher, which is an FBA plan. Yeah, I think because I know behavior is a really big issue, so I do want to just put out that if your kid is having a lot of behavioral issues, then you need to start focusing not necessarily just on a schedule, but also creating a behavior management plan. And that's something that you can actually do together with your child or children. It can be a point system, a chart, any visual that lets them reflect on their negative and positive behaviors. A lot of people put them in their kitchen, in their main living room. But again, it should always have a positive outlook on it. Again, this just creates expectations for what is expected of them now that this is a new transition and a new way of living for them.
Yeah. I heard someone say kids are not, I know people are worried how is this going to affect kids in the future? What's this going to do to them? And there's really no way of knowing what's going to happen until we're done with it. But I've heard a lot of people say, and experts, coaches and therapists, kids won't remember the pandemic or the danger of it. What they will remember is the atmosphere of the home, how the home felt.
Yeah, so I think this is a tricky question. This is the first time, obviously, the world is going through a global pandemic and epidemic to this level. But research suggests that in the past, the way that we've been affected by, say, natural disasters, world wars, I know Hurricane Katrina was a big one for us in the States. A lot of the people that are largely affected, usually it comes down to on a socioeconomic level and the effects of what those who have lost their jobs, uprooted homes, and also here there's going to be a lot of trauma and grief for the loss of loved ones. And so there's a lot of kind of different levels versus overgeneralizing this, but on the general, in terms of the mass, yes, they're going to remember their times at home. They're going to remember the moments where they were, you know, building the tents at home with their parents before bedtime or whatever it might be. But I wouldn't want to necessarily generalize that. Because I think it really does depend on the environment of the home, the situation that's going on, and how it's really affecting the family and their home, like as a whole. Because a lot of people are losing their jobs right now. A lot of children, you know, there's also children with learning disabilities and special education that hasn't really been touched on yet. But a lot of these parents are really struggling because they lost a lot of their occupational therapists, speech therapists, and all of the types of therapies that they were used to is not something that you can automatically just move into e-learning. There's also the public schools in Egypt that don't have access to internet and don't have things like that. So this is affecting people in so many different ways that there still needs to be more research done, obviously. But I would say that this is going to be treated as a trauma. Obviously, we're dealing with a trauma right now. And so really looking out for signs of how this is affecting your children. So I'm looking at my red flags with the worry bugs, those with, you know, obsessive tendencies, anxieties, those that are, behaviors are changing. Are their social friendships, are they going to be diminished after this? Are they becoming more introverted? And so it's more about seeing the change of what is going to happen with your child, and are they able to sort of overcome that?
Yeah. So then what we can do now, and what we can tell caregivers and parents to do now is make sure you're working on yourself to stay calm and do what you need to do in small steps to not be panicked, because that transmits to the kids. Create a structure and a schedule and a calendar that works for your family, that allows for mommy and daddy or parents or caregivers, for children, for playtime, for school, for me time, and focus on the positive behavior. And when kids are acting up, to not engage or acknowledge the outburst or the acting out. So these are three things that we can do now. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
Also, validating your children's feelings. You know, it's okay that they're worried, and let them go through those emotions, but let them express that and let them get that out.
On that note, actually, I want to say that a lot of times parents try to downplay things for their kids and say, no, don't worry, that's not true, there's nothing happening. But then they hear it elsewhere. So what you mentioned in the beginning is sit your kids down, hear what they have to say, what they believe, what they've heard, and then just correct their facts. But I don't believe in like completely keeping them, you know, just like, oh no, this is nothing. Like, don't overly like not give it any attention. Yeah, don't like completely hold back.
I think, again, this is going to be different with different age brackets. And so I think it's about really seeing where they're at. And then also, but that doesn't stop there, right? Because if I'm hoping, and this is something that I want to talk about things to do at home in terms of our own mental well-being and et cetera. But if they're on FaceTime with their kid, with their friends, if they're WhatsApping, if they're on PlayStation or Xbox and talking to their friends, there's conversations going back and forth. And so that means that the dialogue in their mind is changing, which means that the conversation that you're having with them, there needs to be a constant check-in. You want to see where they're at. What questions do you have today?
Constant check-in.
Yeah, what questions do you have this week? And you're going to see it. You're going to see it through the way that they're expressing themselves, the way that they're talking with their friends. because you really just want to understand where are they absorbing this information. And that is where you take that time as a teachable moment. So if you have teens at home, this is your time using this as a teachable moment about all the myths that are online, and what does a good resource look like, and how can you spot out a myth and start working through that with them, and why does our family like listen to these news, and why is this reputable, and what does research mean, and what does a source look like when you're reading an article versus all of the forwards and all of the scams that are being sent on Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram and I don't know what. It's all fun and they're all great jokes, but we need to differentiate and teach our children the difference between fact and opinion.
Okay.
Use it as a teachable moment.
Yeah. So go ahead and tell me what you wanted to share, the tips on working on yourself and staying calm. And I think that's a good place to bring this all together. So go ahead and tell me everything that all of Marwa's tips and examples of a schedule and a structure. We're going to post all of that on Cut the Crap as soon as we're done with the conversation. So if you're tuning in a bit late, everything's going to be up on Apple Podcast, YouTube, and on our Instagram page as a reference. So go ahead.
Okay, so now I think is a really good time to start incorporating mindful techniques at home.
It's lacking.
It's a really good time to start incorporating Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So now is a really good time to start incorporating mindful techniques at home. A good thing to do in your child's bedtime routine. If your child is a little bit younger, you can use belly breathing. And again, a link that we can add. I also will be putting all of these resources together, and they will be publishing it on Scoop Empire, I believe, next week, along with another article of how to talk to your kids about the coronavirus. So there'll be 2 separate articles, and also on the Wellness Hub, we will be doing workshops about the different types of techniques. So a lot of resources that we're pumping out in the next coming days, but I'm just gonna briefly explain it now. So there's belly breathing that you can work with your toddlers, and that's sort of laying down before bed using a stuffed animal as their buddy, put it on top of their stomach, and they can start being aware of the muscles that they're controlling. And this is sort of this to start understanding deep breathing and what that looks like. So with the older kids, you can use guided relaxation techniques. There's so many on YouTube. I definitely recommend checking it out before doing it with your kids. But mindfulness is a state of being present and in the moment. And so this is a good time to start practicing this is a good time to start practicing how to calm your body, paying attention to the sensations around you, staying present. A lot of research really suggests that guided relaxation techniques improves cognitive control, emotional regulation, working memory, and attention. All things that we need right now at home. And there are times where our kids are overstimulated a lot. And so start incorporating this into their bedtime routine or middle of the day, totally fine. Because this will then allow them when they're older to use these tools when they're feeling, anxious and stressed out. Journaling is another one that I'm seeing a lot of people starting to talk about more. It's a really great stress management tool and self-exploration. I encourage this for not just kids. I really strongly encourage it for parents as well. Grab a notebook, use your phone, whatever works for you, and start writing it out. Gratitude exercises are really good. It enhances empathy and reduces aggression. So what are we grateful for today? Would be for our younger kids, and then you can take it a step further and more like gratitude stories for your older kids. And then self-reflection moments, I think, is probably the strongest thing right now. Self-reflection moments is going to be really good for parents to reflect on their children's behavior during the day, their own behaviors and how it's being transmitted. And you're also able, if you're doing self-reflection, which strengthens our emotional intelligence, It's something that I do with my kids in all of our sessions. 3 positive and 3 negative things. With my younger kids, I say 3 awesome, 3 not so awesome. You can, change it the way that you want it to, however you want to word it. Yoga has been really great. I've been seeing a lot of kids jumping in on the lives with their moms and doing yoga. I'm sure you can attest to that. And then I have been working on this glitter bottle, which is something that I'm working on for a workshop next week. And glitter bottles, which are really great for our special needs kids, but because it's for sensory, but can really work for adults, kids, and anyone. And this is a really good visual to work on our anger management strategies, helping people calm down. And so if you're anxious, you can use this as sort of your timeout session. You shake it up and you start focusing on the glitter. And once the glitter settles, you sort of use this to tell them that this bottle, sometimes our brain looks like this bottle, okay? We have a little bit of a glitter storm, and sometimes we need it to calm down. And so using this as a really
like this strategy.
Helps regulate your emotions.
Oh, it's cutting a bit.
Visual aid. Oh, it's cutting a bit. Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, me too. And then let me tell you, when Egypt goes into curfew hour, the internet is just
goes bonkers.
Something else. But I think I thought of a solution in the middle of this conversation. I'm gonna try this tomorrow. So again, thank you everyone for your patience with this horrible internet. But I think I've thought of something in the middle, and we'll figure it out tomorrow. Okay, so now I see you and I hear you really well. So, and I love the metaphor, and I love that technique. I might very much apply that to myself. Keep going.
Okay, and then I think this anger, I noticed that I'm getting a lot of questions about anger management right now. And I use this anger management thermometer tool. So does Jessica, our relationship therapist at Wellness Hub. So this can be used for all children, all ages, all adults. And this is another self-reflection tool. If you're having a fight at home,
you know what I'm gonna try? Once you're calm. Hold on, because it's cutting a bit. So what I'm gonna try is I'm gonna take you off the live. And then I will, actually, no, now it's getting better. I was going to play the Zoom sound and see if that's a bit clearer for some people can hear you, but it's fine. Okay, now we're good. So let's keep trying.
So this is another tool that can be used for,
yeah, no, it's not working. Okay, let's do... Okay, so let's try this, just because I think it's, and the visuals are all going to be on YouTube, so at least you could hear the explanation, and then you can go on our YouTube and see everything clearly, because I see you clearly here on the screen. So just, okay, perfect. So keep going. Glitter bottle, this is our mind, glitter storm, and it all settles. Okay.
Okay, so another really good tactic, tool to use for anger management is kind of at the end of the day or after a fight has calmed down. I do not recommend this when things are happening. Is just a way to self-reflect what caused the anger. So using this perfect thermometer, 1 through 10, 10 being the blowout. So if let's say I ended up hitting, I don't know, my brother, then you would write number 10, Marwa hit her brother. And then what would you do is that as a parent, you would sort of dissect all of the steps that led to this. Okay, so the goal of this is to figure out, and number 1 is that you're calm. So maybe I was just eating soup or something. And the goal of this is to work, whether you're doing this with your kid or just for yourself, if the fight was with you, is you're trying to find the trigger. You want to identify the trigger. When you keep doing this, you start to pick up themes. And when you're able to know the trigger, you're able to then maybe stop yourself when you hit a 5 versus the 10. And so this is a really good tool to use for anger management strategies.
Okay, we'll link that as well, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
I have some questions that people had sent in for you, and I want to make sure we get through these before we close today.
Sure.
And one of the questions says, my son is always staying up late, refusing to sleep, no matter how many times and ways I try to force him to bed. Could this be that he's scared and hesitant to go to bed, or is he pushing my limits?
Okay, that's a great question. I think I would want to know if prior to Corona, was this an issue or is this an ongoing issue? That would be my first question. My second question would be, is there anything that he's being overstimulated by before nighttime? So like, what does his bedtime routine look like? Are you giving in to seeking of the negative behavior is another thing to look out for. Because children are going to are testing everybody right now. And so let's not give in to the negative behavior. Start putting in the guided relaxation, I think would be the best tool right now to try with him. Pop onto YouTube, work on it together. Maybe you want to practice it during the day before nighttime comes. And what is he doing before bedtime?
Okay. Another question says, I wake up very lazy and I usually don't want to get out of bed. Even if the night before I'll say I'll be productive, I can't get myself in the mood to do anything. And I think this is more of even a coaching question. And what I always tell my clients or people in my life in general is you have to get up and get dressed for the day, because as long as you're in your PJs or you're not really getting up and getting into that uniform for the next phase of the day, you're never going to be in the mood. And I'm guessing there you could say something about this even with kids, like we mentioned. You have to get them on a routine where they have to wake up early, even if it's not 6 a.m., but they're waking up early and they're getting dressed and sitting up on a table on their laptop working, not in their PJs on the couch in front of the TV with a laptop right there, and their mom's like forcing them to study.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different like tools that they can try. I think what I'm seeing for some people is, you know, getting up and getting dressed as if they're going to work is working for them. For some people, it's like actually just even as simple as putting on the shoes that they go to work with.
Yeah.
For some people, I'm realizing a distraction. So if the desk that you're choosing to work on at home is surrounded by a kitchen or TV, that could be something that's triggering you to just kind of subconsciously be lazy and not want to do anything. So maybe it's moving where you put your sort of temporary workstation if you don't have a home office.
Yeah.
I think that's something to sort of look into. And then I think setting an expectation for yourself. So not even just putting it on your phone, but I think what I find is when you actually write it out and say, okay, even if doesn't matter how big or small your task is, having that to-do list, again, gives yourself a responsibility. Like, okay, today I need to read 10 pages from this chapter, and I need to get at least 3 summary notes out like on my computer because my deadline is next week for the assignment for English class or whatever it might be. So yeah. I think also like adding that gives yourself that sort of expectation. Maybe you're being lazy because a lot of us are going stir crazy at home. So what I'm finding is whatever exercise works for you. I'm not a fan of running outside. And my brother has been motivating me to run every single day. And although I'm dragging my feet through it every single day, it is, you know, the endorphins are running in and right. that it's making me feel better. And I think a really important thing to talk about that we didn't discuss about today is socializing. While we're social distancing, are your kids talking with their friends? That is a really important aspect that needs to happen. So are they on FaceTime or Zoom or House Party or whatever app they might be using? Are they communicating with their friends? Because a lot of kids are getting worried that their friends are going to forget about them and that their friends they're going to lose their friends. Mm-hmm. And so that could also be something that is affecting them. If you're struggling with friendships, cousins, but make sure you're interacting with somebody right now.
Someone in their age group.
In their age bracket.
Okay. I'm so happy you came on today. I thought it was so important, even though I'm not a mom yet. So I still felt like if I'm hearing these things and I'm trying to do all these things and it's affecting me, then it must be affecting kids. And it's important to be mindful of this because ultimately it stems down from how you're taking care of yourself. And also, I'm a big fan of the importance of structure and making decisions for yourself. And that's what creates the structure that works for you and your family, and how that's really the root of how everything else is going to play out. How you take care of yourself during this time and how you're feeling emotionally is what is going to reflect on your kids. So thank you so much for helping us out today. Everything that Marwa talked about and suggested will be linked on our Instagram and on our Facebook page. And you can follow her and DM her your questions if we didn't get through anything today. And you can DM us on Cut the Crap too, and we'll coordinate that. And
yeah, I'll put together all the resources. And like I said, I'm working with Scoop Empire on getting as many resources up there for definitely for the Egyptian MENA demographic, and definitely for the Wellness Hub. We're going to be doing a couple lives, workshops on like how to make this glitter bottle at home, right. How to do some of the breathing exercises, using art as expression for your kids, and really kind of just remember to be kind to yourself. Everyone's doing a great job.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Marwa. Thank you, really.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining in tonight. We hope this was helpful for you or anyone else in your family that might be dealing with their kids being home. And send us your questions for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about impact and how yoga can help you, even if it's not really your thing, but simple at-home yoga can just help you calm down, and how different people could be impacted by this. And we're actually going to be speaking to my sister. So have a good night. Think of one thing you're grateful for. You had the time and the resources to tune in. And if you are tuning in very late, you could watch this on YouTube and listen in on Apple Podcast. And we're updating the episodes daily. And DM us if there are any subjects or topics that you want to discuss. So have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.